New Year's. A time for looking back on the past and looking forward to the future. All over the world, people celebrate this time of year, without exception. People of every country, ethnicity, and faith are brought together for a single shared night. It truly is amazing, is it not? Personally, New Year's is my favorite time of year, the 4th of July being a close second. My favorite thing about the two holidays are the fireworks. It's so dazzling with their explosions of color. It is truly something to behold. I usually spend most of New Year's sitting on a random rooftop waiting for the fireworks to start, which is just what I'm doing at the time of writing this. It is an hour past midnight right now. Here I am, laying down on this rooftop, waiting. I hope that you had a really good year, and I mean that. I mean, who'd want their last year to be a bad one? After all, I know what it's like to have a bad year. You're probably reading this and wondering just who the hell I am. Well, let me remind you. You were my best friend. You were my only friend. Did you know that? No, I guess you didn't. You were always too busy to notice something so unimportant. Too busy having fun with your popular friends. And I understand. No, really, I do. But you see, what I can't understand is why you'd hurt me the way that you did. I loved you. I didn't know it at first, but after you and I did what we did, it became so obvious to me. Do you remember? That night you and I went out behind your parents' house? It was New Year's then, too. The fireworks were so beautiful that night. It was our tradition. Every year you and I would lay on the roof of your house and watch the fireworks. It was always my favorite time of year. You made New Year's my favorite holiday. But that night, you were different. You didn't want to go up to the roof. You took my hand and led me behind your house, through the backyard and into the woods. I usually was too afraid to go in there, but the touch of your hand made me feel so much better. Eventually, you brought me to a clearing. It had the softest grass I ever felt in my life. You laid down and I laid down next to you. As I lay there, staring into the night sky, waiting for the fireworks to start, you called my name. You looked right at me, but you had a look on your face I'd never seen before. Then you kissed me. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to feel, but before I knew it, I was kissing you too. That night we made fireworks of our very own, and it was amazing. That was the best night of my life. I'd never been so happy. The next day, I was the happiest person in all the world. How could I not be? After all that time, all those years of thinking that I'd never find my other half, there you were, right in front of me. But then, you changed. You weren't the same. Whenever I tried talking to you, you'd just come up with some excuse to leave. Every day I saw you less and less. Eventually, you just stopped hanging out with me. Whenever I'd go over to your house to see you, you'd just send your mom to tell me that you weren't home. I knew she was lying. I could hear you and your friends laughing from your room. I cried myself to sleep that night. I didn't understand what I did wrong. Why were you treating me that way? What did I do? Why? That question kept going around in my head. Why? The next day at school, I got my answer. I heard that you were going to prom with Alex Patterson. I couldn't believe it. After all that we had gone through, after our night together, you just left me alone. I expected to feel sadness like before, but I didn't. Instead, I felt anger. Anger at that bitch for taking you away from me. Anger at your mom for lying to my face, but most of all, I felt anger at you for making me feel the way I did. I tried confronting you about it, but you just yelled at me to stay away. You called me a stalker and a freak. From that day forward, that's all I was. A freak. They pointed and laughed, whispered behind my back. Go ahead, laugh. Laugh at my freakishness for all the world to see. I promised myself that at the end, I'd be laughing at them, and I will laugh at you. As the year went on, people loved you more and more. If they didn't want you, they'd want to be you. As for me, everybody hated me more and more. Sometimes they'd wait for me after school, to remind the freak what their place was. The only place where I could find peace was at home with my parents. They were the only ones who loved me, especially my dad. He came to me one night and said that he'd take me camping just like we used to. It was the first time I left the house in months. Dad and I went out into those same woods where you took my virginity. But he didn't know about that. He didn't know about any of it. How could I tell him what you did to me? All he knew was that I wasn't happy. So he decided to spend time with me the only way he could. Dad always went out hunting for our dinner. He's always been old-fashioned like that. It'd been a really long time since I went camping with him. This time, though, he had something else in mind. I wasn't just along for the ride this time. He decided to teach me how to hunt. The rifle was heavier than I thought it would be. He taught me how to hold the rifle right, how to gauge the distance of a target, how to take things like wind and moisture into account before taking the shot. He even taught me how to skin and gut our prize. He was very thorough. Sometimes I think he knew. I think he knew what I was going to do. Maybe he wanted me to do it. I don't know. At the time, I was just happy to get out of the house, to feel like I was actually useful, to feel like not so much of a freak. Things were starting to look up. I was finally starting to let go. But you just had to take that from me too. New Year's had come again. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I remembered our night together. Seeing how I wasn't going to get to sleep that night, I decided that I might as well catch our dinner for the next day. I mean, my shooting shouldn't bother anybody with all the fireworks going off. They wouldn't even notice. I went into the woods and climbed into my favorite nest. Then I saw you two. Through my scope. It was no secret that you and Alex had hooked up before. But did you have to bring him there? To our spot? You didn't see me from the deer stand across the clearing, but I could see you. I could see everything. The both of you lying together under the stars. Then you kissed him. Something broke inside me. Suddenly, every single bad thing I felt just came rushing back, harder than before. I felt sadness and anger, but most of all, I felt the need for you to understand, to know what I was feeling. I wanted you to know what it was like to have your life ruined. I needed you to understand what that was like. It wasn't a conscious decision. I saw you two rolling around in the grass. I saw him get on top of you. I saw the crosshairs center on his head. Before I knew it, he was slumped over you. Blood running from the hole in his head. I'll never forget the way you screamed. as you sat there, covered in his blood, screaming. I finally felt something like peace again. Not like when I was hunting animals. This was something else. For the first time since all of it started, I finally felt right. I found a New Year's tradition. They never did figure out who did it, did they? After all, people down here shoot up into the sky on New Year's all the time. But oh, didn't they just cry and cry over that man whore? How many girls did he screw, actually? At least half the cheerleading squad. And there they were, talking about how it was such a tragedy he was gone. How he was such a sweetheart. Whatever. Do you know how many times that sweetheart and his friends would torture me? Remember when I wore a hat for a month? That was because he and his friends thought it would be funny to hold me down and shave my head. Then there was the time he beat me in the gym shower and stole my clothes from my locker. I had to stay there until nightfall and sneak into my own house so that my parents wouldn't see. Did you know about that? Did you even care? I doubt it. I sat there in the same auditorium as you and them, watching as you bawled your eyes out. You know something? People always say that the first kill is the hardest. But the thing is, I didn't feel bad at all. I didn't exactly go out there with a plan to kill Alex. You know, it just kind of happened. But I gotta say, it felt pretty damn good. And I wanted to feel that again. Luckily for me, I would get my chance. I told you the 4th of July is my second favorite holiday. Now you know why. They never heard the shots. That year, 6 little man whores got put into 6 little boxes. They were all closed caskets, of course. After all, I was a little more thorough with them. It wasn't hard. I mean, your dad wasn't ever really good at locking up his guns. And your mom always left the screen door unlocked. Guess she thought that she lived in a safe neighborhood. Oh boy, was she wrong. That look of shock on your face when they arrested your dad, oh, it was priceless. I gotta say, I didn't expect your mom to hang herself. That was just icing on the cake. I mean, wow. It couldn't be more perfect. I went to check up on you after the funeral. You were so distraught. You put your head on my shoulder and cried and cried. We talked for hours just like we used to. But this time, I didn't feel any of the affection I once felt for you. I just went there to make sure you understood. And boy, did you. You left soon after, to go live with your aunt and uncle. I thought about going after you, but I figured you'd keep. Besides, I still had work to do. I bet people thought I was done, but oh no. They were just the latest in a long line of people who tortured me through high school. I'm sure you remember the following New Year's. Every New Year's. Every 4th of July. Bodies would pile up. Oh, they tried to keep people safe. Bless their hearts, they really did. They even put up a curfew and everything, but you know how teenagers are. Always eager for a party, they just couldn't help themselves. Neither could I. Eventually, I got them all. Every last one. And it was just wonderful. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't done. You were still out there. I have to give you credit. You really made me work for it. Changed your name and everything. By the time I found you, you had changed so much, I almost thought I had the wrong girl. But no. It was you. I bet your family thought you were paranoid. Not paranoid enough. now here I am. Another New Year's, another rooftop, waiting for the fireworks to start, waiting for you. I can't wait to see your face when you realize you're in my sights, and that you always were. Happy New Year. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed that horrifying creepypasta. That was submitted to me by the Dark Scholar. I'll leave links to their media in the description below. Before you go, please make sure to hit subscribe, that like button, and the little bell so you can be notified when my videos pop up. Feel free to check out my other channels in the annotations on screen. And, as always, my Darkness Militia, have a terrifying evening.